Thank you. Let's unpack this a bit more, shall we? Let's bring in Republican strategist Malik Abdul and Taryn Rosenkranz, Democratic strategist. Good morning to both of you. You know, Tom posed a couple things that I want to ask you both about. Malik, let me start with you. Republicans will be, of course, rolling out that welcome wagon today for Elon Musk and Vivek. Do you expect them to get actual work done, or do you think this will be more of a photo op?
So look, thanks for having me. I've worked in government before, and I know that there are a lot of redundant programs and unnecessary things in government. So there are ways where you can cut government, but unfortunately, I'm not as sold on what they're selling as far as what they'll be able to do, though, because this idea, the problem that they're going to run into, because it's going to seem as if that they are de facto presidents of, alternative presidents of the United States, kind of wingmen to Trump making decisions. It is not the job of OGE, of this new department, to bring government workers. They have no mandate to control the government workforce. A lot of the stuff that they're going to be doing is very symbolic. I do believe that there are billions that can be cut from places, for instance, like the Department of Defense and its almost really $1 trillion budget. I think that there are legitimate things that can be done, but I think they kind of oversell it a bit. And with only a year and a half in order to even get things done, I think that they're going to be focused on really more so a lot of regulations. You'll probably see more cutting regulations than cutting trillions from the government, because the government just doesn't work that way.
And it's interesting, to hear you as a Republican say you're not sold on this. Then you got Senator Bernie Sanders, on the other side of the aisle saying Elon Musk is right, and he backs DOGE if it makes major cuts to defense spending. Taryn, are you surprised by this unlikely ally and some of the other allies that are coming forward on this one?
Well, I think with Senator Sanders, he is an independent, and he has always liked to sort of not take the most popular position all the time. So I think from that perspective, I'm not surprised at all. I think it's been interesting what allies they will get, because, some of the concerns that my friend just talked about are ones that we have. But also, if you think about it, it's just interesting to create a new department in the government that's going to slash the government, as opposed to finding efficiencies within the government.
Well, and isn't it an outside advisory? Right? It's an outside advisory role, not within the government.
But in that sense, that makes it even less clear, which was his point, right? So no matter how you slice and dice it or what you call it, it sort of becomes a situation where you're thinking, wait a second, what are we doing here? We have two billionaires who are looking to cut regulations, or are they looking to cut? And that's what I think we were just talking about, right? Like whether or not this is really going to be about actually making more Americans lose jobs, which is the opposite of what Trump promised and was trying to help people to do. Instead, it's looking like we're thinking about making people lose jobs. That would make the suffering economies that in the outside areas of the Washington suburbs as well. So there's a lot of impact on some of the stuff they're doing, as opposed to really what they're thinking about by saying, I'm going to cut regulations at the, EPA, and then that's going to be good for me. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be good for American people who are looking to put more money in their pockets, not lose jobs.
We'll see how it all shakes out. Malik, I know you brought up the Department of Defense there. So let's talk about Pete Hegseth for a second, shall we? I mean, he's not backing down. He's doing damage control this week by meeting with senators. His mom is doing damage control in interviews this week about her son. She's reportedly calling senators on his behalf. Malik, where do you think this is all headed for Hegseth, and where do you hope to see it head?
Well, look, when he was initially announced, I said the two people that I had a problem with were Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz for very different reasons. It's not because I didn't think that Pete Hegseth was a great guy. He really seems to be. That's a much different case with Matt Gaetz. I really thought that Pete Hegseth should have probably been a better fit at the Department of Veterans Affairs rather than the Department of Defense. But because he is, though, I think that he is now having a much harder time than even I initially thought. And with the recent conversations we're hearing with Senator Joni Ernst, and Republicans are going after her because they're feeling as if that she may not be supportive of him. Well, that is the Senate's job, to advise in consent. So it seems as if it's going to be a bit difficult now for Pete Hegseth. And I'll say it seems as if that it is more so the storm before the exit, because it doesn't seem like he's going to survive this.
And there have been reports, yesterday It's being talked about that maybe Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is going to swap him out instead. Taryn, do you think he's going to end up getting the support he needs to get confirmed?
It's never good when they're announcing potential replacements for you. So I'm not sure, no matter what damage control he does at this point, when that name's already been floated out there, that almost felt like inevitable. So I wouldn't be surprised if he does not make it all the way through. I think it's been tough from the get-go. And I think the storm that sort of, spiraled a little bit for him. And it's going to take a lot for him to be able to control that and then to be able to get through a hearing, because we haven't even gotten to the hearing and there's already this much backlash.
I know he vowed on X yesterday he wasn't going to back down, not in his words, but basically not going to pull a Gates and resign from this. Malik Abdul, Taryn Rosenkranz, thank you as always to both of you. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having us.